All right, welcome back to a very special episode of the Shop Class Podcast. Tonight is a roundtable reunion of the Pratt Industrial Design Department. I attended Pratt a million years ago, and I'm so happy and lucky to have my professors come and visit me on the Shop Class Podcast. And our featured guest tonight is Bruce Hanna. How you doing?
Hi, how are you? It's very exciting to be here. I love shop class. I loved it from when I was 8 years old. I loved shop class.
Wow. We're going to get into that question in a second. Don't go there yet. Hold on. Let me say hi to the other people in the house. We got Linda Salentano. She was my 3D design teacher. She kind of taught me aesthetics and three-dimensional. How you doing, Linda?
All right. Way to go. Great to be here.
Nice. And that's wild. I really enjoyed her class. It was incredible. We got Peter Molinaire taking care of the roof from Canada, Toronto. He's a jack of all trades and mostly focused on passive houses right now. How you doing?
Doing real well. Yeah, thank you. That's a big interest, how to build houses more comfortably, pest-free, airtight, and ventilated.
Nice.
And I could put a roof on it. Yes. Mechanical engineering helps.
And Peter's been helping advise my students remotely, which is kind of cool. And we got Mark Adams in the house, overall badass, and he's got beautiful photography, and he can definitely talk to you about motorcycles or photography or travel in the country. How you doing?
Good.
All right. And we got Adam. How do you say your name, Adam? Sorry.
It's Mockles.
Mockles, another shop teacher. Thank you for doing that. And he's in, I guess, northern Illinois. Are you close to Chicago?
About an hour southwest.
Okay, nice. What's your area of focus? You do wood shop?
Yeah, so I'm wood shop at 3 levels, and then I teach a class called residential DIY.
Nice. Okay, cool. And we got Niall.
Our building's close country there. Our building, Sterling.
That's true.
Yeah, we get close. We're bordering where they run around.
Nice. And we got Niles. I don't know much about Niles. Bruce, you want to introduce Niles?
Oh, Niles is a very famous paleontologist. As Niles Eldridge is the inventor of the new theory of evolution called punctuated equilibrium, which I will talk completely out of turn and say punctuated equilibrium is that everything goes along lovely and then shit happens.
That's true.
And it can happen good or bad.
Niles, why didn't you tell me this when I was younger? I had to find out the hard way.
But we've been.
Niles, you got to unmute yourself or something.
You're muted.
He is unmuted, and there's something wrong on his end. Sorry.
Okay. But come on, Niles, you got to talk.
Okay, you're unmuted on the podcast, but in some way, whatever you're using, maybe the speaker's not plugged in or something like that.
Turn it up.
All right, you're gonna figure it out. We can't hear you through the.
We can't hear you, but keep trying.
Anyway, okay, so moving right along, people know me, but a little about me is I'm a shop teacher for 19 years, and I use a lot of the principles that I learned at Pratt, design thinking and simplifying your design and whatnot. So we're going to go to the big question for Bruce right away. And I usually have Duke Lazowski do it. It's such a big question. We need a lot of armor to do it. We got to work out. So Peter, he's been working out and trying it and getting in shape. And Peter, you want to ask the big question of the night? Go for it.
So the question is, Bruce, did you ever have shop class growing up through school?
Yes, I did. I loved shop class. I went to PS3 on Staten Island when there was no middle school. You went to public school from kindergarten through 8th grade, and then you were 13 years old and you were thrown into high school. But no, I loved it. I think we did 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. And I had a wonderful shop teacher, Mr. Haney, who introduced us to, everybody else was making like the lamp, with it was the pump lamp. That was very big in the 50s. And it's a very famous design. And I said, I really didn't want to make the pump lamp. I wanted to make a boat, a sailboat. And
Okay.
so he let me do it. And I got into big trouble. And, you go to the lumberyard. And I love by the way, shop class is directly connected to lumberyards in a lot of ways. There's the story. It's in my little book that you can buy from Blurb.
Oh.
And what's wonderful is you go into lumberyards, not as much today, but then you could smell the wood. Now wood is so treated and everything else, I don't think you can really smell very much of it. But if you go into a really good lumberyard, some of the sells like mahogany and stuff like that, you can smell the wood. It's great. So they let me build this boat, and it was a pond sailor, and it had the little rudder that was connected to the mast, and it would go out and turn around and come back. And so I built that. I think I built that in 6th and 7th grade. Took a while. And then in 8th grade, I built another one, which was bigger. It's probably like, I don't know, 36 inches or something. And that one was built, it was hollow. The first one was solid. The second one was hollow. So we made it all out of these pieces of wood that were glued together and cut into the shape of a boat. You glued it all together. And at that time, you had to use weldwood glue. There was nothing else, So you had to mix up weldwood glue and do it fast and everything else. And then you had to shape up the outside of the boat. And you shape the inside a little bit. You kind of take the rough edges off it. And in 8th grade, I won the shop prize.
Aha, there you go.
Hey, way to go.
And
Nice.
so it's 8th grade. It's 8th grade graduation. And so I go up, they say, Bruce Hannon won the shop prize. And I go up to get the prize, and they say, here is your plane. And they handed me this box. And I thought, this is a really heavy plane. I thought it was an airplane model kit or something, No, it was a beautiful woodworking plane that I still have.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I got you. That's
So-
pretty cool.
So, that's the boat that I built. I had my brothers, they were in my brother's annex from his house. And when he moved, he threw them away. So, they're buried somewhere in some dump, I guess. But it was great fun to learn how to make something in
And
shop.
Did that continue? It's no surprise that you were super creative and you're like, I'm not going to make the lamp. I want to make my own thing. No surprise you're a designer. That makes sense.
Yeah, it was wonderful. I then went on to go to high school, and I didn't go to shop class in high school.
But there was one or no?
Oh no, I went to one of those high schools where you could get a vocational diploma, an academic diploma, or a commercial diploma, which was typing, which I have no idea why we ever stopped that. I have no idea, because they were all equal. The kids in commercial and vocational also were in, the smart English classes and the history classes and everything else. There was no barriers, and they built real boats, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, they took orders for like 16-foot boats, wooden boats.
Wow, really?
And they built 2 a year.
That's pretty cool.
One in the fall and one in the spring. And the money that they generated from selling the boats went to buy tools and everything else.
Wow, no kidding. I heard Dyson was a boat apprentice. I think he made handmade boats, and then the cyclone vacuum inside the shop is where he got the inspiration for the Dyson vacuum.
I'm sure.
So
but I to me, all my kids did shop class, and they loved it. They loved,
at some point there was sort of like a barrier, a stigma, like you're mentioning it, and we all know about it. In the 90s, there was some sort of stigma. Is there any logic to that? Did you see that happen, and why do you think that occurred?
I have no idea. I think we got lousy teachers. I mean, I think a lot of teachers teach to retire. They do not teach to. So, especially in high schools and stuff, they all want to retire, but I mean, it's true. There's a whole bunch of really good ones.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Well, it's totally random.
Dude,
So, I mean, it's just by chance that I run this shop like as if we're building like entrepreneurs and designers.
right.
But some people before me, they would just hand out paperwork. And I remember when I first got here, they had this temporary guy, and he's handing out paper drawings of an engine, and that's what the kids are doing. And I remember he left, and I remember I was so nervous being here the first day. I was like, and these kids were kind of like, they were rough. And so I went up, I just sat down at one of the desks, and I sat down and I said, hey, how's it going? They're like, yeah, and I was like, what'd you guys do before I got here? And they just showed me a paper, and they're like, this. And they go, but I was studying, but did you build engines? And they're like, no. And I was like, what? That's crazy. Let's just build engines. And they're like, oh my God. Immediately they're all on my side. And I didn't have to go through the horrible things new teachers go through. And I only had one day like that. I'll tell you that story later. But so they're like, yeah, let's do this. So we just dragged we had a cut in half 67 Mustang, and we had a big Chevelle engine in here. And oh man, it was awesome. And we would just build stuff. We would just take things apart, put them back together and stuff. And, but there are teachers, the guy before me was just handing out paperwork. I mean, it's crazy to me,
Well, you have to really want to build stuff.
Yeah. It takes effort. I will say that. Yeah.
There's a lot of people that just don't want to do it. They're terrified of it.
Yeah.
Building stuff is just the best thing. I mean, that's how I got into industrial design. I mean, I like to build stuff. My friend Richie Pignatter and I, when we were teenagers, we built go-karts.
Oh,
and we raced around the street and up and down the street, and tried to hit the dogs, and all those things that you try to do when you're a teenager. But he went on to become a very important part of the development team at IBM with a high school diploma.
Wow.
Because he wasn't afraid to use a hammer on a computer. The computers in the 50s and 60s, and were the big mainframes are basically electromechanical devices.
Yeah, like big contactors and relays.
Yeah, but they have big motors in them, and they drive machine, drive belts and everything else. And you had to be a little. You had to sometimes not be gentle with them to make them work.
Yeah.
And people, who are educated people in electronics were like, "Oh my God, you're going to break it." And he said, "No, I'm fixing it." And he was one of the people that could keep machines running in big, in Citibank and Chase that other people could.
I see. Okay.
So IBM said to him, "Well, maybe you should come up to Westchester and work with the designers." And so that became his life. He became part of the team that developed their big machines.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, IBM was probably heavy into hardware at the time.
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
So they were still using cards.
Now, just because we have such a special Pratt alumni night, maybe I would like to ask Linda, maybe you'd like to give us a little brief. Did you have shop class growing up? What happened? I don't think I ever asked you that question.
Yes, we not only did, we had photography, we had art classes, shop, and I chose not to do gymnastics, doing backflips on uneven bars because it just wasn't my thing. They made us do that anyway. I am so uncoordinated when it comes to things like that. Anyway, so I found my way, and and then I came to Pratt, and real people design yo-yos and church interiors. And I was just like, this is the place for me.
Did you say yo-yos and church interiors?
Yes. I was like,
Wow.
wow, little to big. Yeah,
Right, little big. That's awesome.
yeah.
Now, wait, where did you grow up? Around here, or was?
I grew up in Paramus, New Jersey.
Oh my God, I'm from New Milford. We probably talked about this. I don't even
Oh my
remember.
God, really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Are you, is your family still here?
Well, my mom passed, but a while ago. But my dad has left New Milford, but he's around. Yeah, and I got a bunch of buddies from Paramus. That's hilarious.
Oh, that is so funny. Wow.
Yeah. Wow, small world. I didn't even know that until now.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it funny?
That's wild.
Wow.
Let me jump over to Niles. Niles, did you get the thing to work yet? He can figure out
Let's see. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
I switched to a more modern iPad,
Okay.
which is my most sophisticated piece of machinery like this. So.
Are you really a paleontologist, or are they pulling my leg over here?
No, I was at the American Museum for 48 years.
Oh, no. The Museum of Natural History?
Yeah, I did the Hall of Biodiversity. I did the Darwin Show.
I got to tell you,
Yeah,
that place changed my life.
good.
I used to volunteer there on every other Sunday, and I was kind of in between jobs, and I had the extra time, and I went over there, and I absolutely loved it. I used to give tours, and the first thing I do, people walk up and they would say, where should we go? And I would say, you want like the really good tour? Or you like, what do you want? And they're like, we want the best. I'm like, all right, come with me. And it was like a mission. We would go straight to the 4th floor where the dinosaurs are.
No kidding.
And it's worked out from there. You got to start at the 4th floor. That's the bang right there.
Yeah. Do you know the Hall of Biodiversity on the first floor?
Yeah, of course.
Well, I did that, and I let nature design it, so that's a design
Wow.
issue. So
For volunteering, they gave me this pass, and I had all access to the whole place. And I would go to all the IMAX movies, and I would go to all the shows. It was awesome. And then the Rose Center was amazing. That was so cool. That was such a cool thing. That's amazing. And actually, one of the other things was I was sitting next to one of the volunteers, and she was a lot older than me. She's like a retired teacher. And I remember when I sat down, she said, I was like, oh, she's like teacher. And at the time, I was kind of like young kid, and I didn't really like teachers that much. And I was like, oh yeah, public school teacher, But she was hilarious. She was really funny, and she was very nice. And every Sunday she would make me laugh. And so I actually considered teaching from my experience with her. That kind of put it on the radar. That was one of the things. So the museum's a great place. Plus, now I'm on a roll. You got me so excited. Going back when the planetarium was analog, and it actually had that articulating crazy projector. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep, that thing in the center of the
All
dome.
that thing.
The Zeiss projector.
Zeiss projector?
It wasn't Zeiss, but it was called a what? Jeez, there's a name for those things that catch the images.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
What was it? Oh, the planetarium. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was amazing. And then they had. Did you go to the Pink Floyd laser light show that they had with the planetarium?
My kids did. Yeah.
That's amazing. So
actually,
Wow.
anyway, this is off the subject of Pratt and Bruce. I mean, later on, if I could swing this thing around, I'll show you my favorite fossil is the European cave bear that one of the Pratt students that Bruce knows too.
okay, I have a very serious question for you. Serious question for you.
No, talk to Bruce. It's his show.
No, this is more important. Okay, what's the deal? Seriously, are we just ancient aliens? And something landed here like 1 million years ago, and then we evolved from that. Like, come on, man, just tell us the truth. Come on.
We're of the earth. We are very much of the earth.
Okay, what about the water bear? That
guy
from outer space. Come on, Neil deGrasse Tyson said that it landed here from a meteor.
But the earth is in outer space, for God's sake. So so you can't kick that can down the road. It all happened here, as far as anybody knows.
All right, fair enough. You know, Duke Lazowski just showed up, and he's the one. He's a shop teacher from East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. He does the
Collected my first fossil in East Stroudsburg.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, but go ahead.
No, wait, okay. Tell us more about that, because then
Yeah.
wait a minute, we're on a roll here. You're digging up fossils in East Stroudsburg?
Middle Devonian coral reef.
Route 80.
On Route 2. Well, it's on Route 209, but
209.
It's basically, Route 80.
Wait,
right?
the dinosaurs knew about Route 80?
Yeah.
What?
209, 80. Yeah. It's all there.
Oh my God. So
we're just in one of the time slices. That's all. Mine started 380 million years ago in that outcrop in East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania.
did you plan on finding the fossil, or you?
I was in a geology class, and we went out there, and we were driven there in a bus, and we got out and we found stuff, including the thing I did my thesis on, and then the thing that ended up changing how we think about evolution from that outcrop.
Wow. Wow.
Pennsylvania.
Okay, we're gonna have to revisit this. But Duke showed up, and he's the one who does the big heavy lifting of the question. But Duke, Peter already asked the question to Bruce Hanna. He's our guest for tonight, the featured guest. But Duke, do you want to ask Niles the big question?
Peter's good. He's like the relief pitcher.
That's what happened. We had to go to the relief guy.
Bruce just sent me this notice. He says, I'm going to do a podcast. He didn't say I'm supposed to talk for one thing. And
all right, Niles, we'll come back to you. No pressure, man.
All right.
Hey, by the way,
I'll talk, but it's Bruce's show. I won't be able to eat sushi with him in peace.
There's
Next week.
plenty of time for
We
Bruce.
have
I just can't
sushi.
believe we can talk to the guy who knows about the aliens. I mean, I want to know about ancient aliens.
We're all aliens is the answer to that. So you should move on.
Okay.
but wait, another thing that you should know about Niles, he has this beautiful collection of cornets. Cornet is a kind of a trumpet. Okay, it's not a trumpet. It's called a cornet.
All right.
There's a difference. True, Niles? Have I got that right so far?
Yeah, it's Kevin who founded Wired magazine. He said my database on the evolution of these cornets is the largest database on any manufactured object that's ever been attempted.
And Niles,
I don't think that's true, but
go with it, Niles.
No, I thought baseball cards. I thought I had a little bit of a. I gave up. I did baseball cards for like 1 year, and I was like, forget this. This is stupid.
So Duke, ask the question. Come on, ask me the question again.
All right.
I have
Bruce.
another answer.
You got the starting pitcher now. Bruce, did you ever have shop class growing up?
I already answered this question, Duke. Why weren't you here earlier? It's okay. I just wanted you to do it so that I could chastise you.
I was looking for fossils.
You were looking for
It's
okay.
209 in East Stroudsburg.
Well, you found them. They're all here on the shop podcast tonight.
This is funny. Oh my God! Look, I gotta say hello to another alumni friend from Pratt, Saber. Saber's in the house. Unmute yourself. Say hi.
I'm trying. Hey guys, how's it going? It's a Pratt over here.
This is the Pratt a reunion. Saber, what's the name of your toy company there?
Bright Stripes. It's an arts and crafts company for kids. It's
Nice.
I've been doing that for 5 years now.
Duke, ask her the question. Let's get somebody.
Saber, did you have shop class growing up?
I had wood shop class. Does that count?
That counts.
Counts? Yeah.
100%. And I loved it. I had it in 8th grade, and I would have had it all the years of my schooling if it was only offered to me. I always dreamed actually of having auto shop class, but then I went the nerdy route and I didn't have time in my advanced placement schedule for auto shop class in high school. But I always regretted having auto shop because I thought it would be really fun and I always wanted to learn about that stuff.
Oh, that's so cool. Hey, it's never too late. I now offer classes outside of my day job. I have a side business where we do shop class for life.
There you
It's
go.
a workshop.
The
It's
good
awesome.
Yeah. So, pretty cool. All right. So, Bright Stripes offering all the cool toys for the kids, and it's a lot of STEM stuff, right? The kids get to design things and think, right?
Yep, I do have some STEM products where you do arts and crafts and learn science and technology through doing arts and crafts. But our focus is really arts and crafts. We have an incredible art line with art supplies that we give back to this wonderful charity called Art Feeds. We give art guides inside of each one to teach kids how to use the materials. So that's another fun product line we have.
Nice. Oh, there we go. Oh, you can snap together stuff.
Yeah, that's for little kids, for preschoolers.
The snap circuits and gears and stuff, that was very helpful. And when I was growing up, I did all kinds of little activities like this as help. That's pretty cool. All right. So let's get back to the show. The Bruce profile show, basically. Bruce, you want to tell us, like, how did you go from shop class in middle school to and I think we got hurt a little bit at high school, but what happened next? Where how did you get to where you are now?
Oh, well, in high school, when I went to high school, you had to take a language. I think you still do now. So I took Spanish because it was the easiest one. And I had Mr. Matei the first year, and I kind of squeaked by with the 68. And then I had Miss Egan for second year. And Miss Egan was also my advisor. And Miss Egan taught Spanish class. And then I went to get, my classes for junior year. And I sat down with her and said, Bruce, please don't take Spanish again. There must be something else you're good at. And I said, well, I like art. I'd really like to do art. And she said, all right, well, then you should take major art. So I took major art, which was this class where you did art, and then you designed stuff. We did a little children's book and stuff like that. And I was very nerdy about it. And then I had to apply to go to college. And I applied to one school. I applied to Pratt, and I got this. You had to take a home test, which was kind of like drawing the girl on the back of the.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
It was completely ridiculous. I could tell you about Milton Glaser failed that test. Do you all know who Milton Glaser is? I Love New York. I Heart New York.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
He did that. Okay. He also founded New York Magazine, et cetera, et cetera. He is a presidential award, medal winner. Obama gave him a presidential merit award. So Milton, so I passed the test, and I got to go to have an interview with the dean, and I got into that completely by mistake, by the way, I think, because I didn't know what a portfolio was. I had a shopping bag, an A&P shopping bag with lots of watercolors in it. Well, I was very lucky. I showed up to the dean's office, and the dean was Albert Chris Janer, who was a very well-known watercolorist, and he loved my watercolors. So I got into Pratt, and then you went through foundation year, which is where we kind of get the taste of everything in the school, which they're kind of disassembling, which is a mistake, because everybody should just study stuff forever.
I remember foundation year. You basically learn like drawing, just straight
drawing
and color and sculpture, and this way you have some sort of, people have some sort of basic skills regardless of what they had coming in. Kind of basically shop class before you get into your major. I think it's a good idea. Why they're taking it down?
Well, they're doing things to it that I don't think. So, but that doesn't matter. So at the end, it's sort of in March of your freshman year, you have to decide where you're going. And so my friend was Lenny Bassett. She was my mate, my locker mate. And I said, Lenny, what are you going to do? And he said, well, I'm going into industrial design. I said, what is that? He said, you make things. And I said, oh, I like to make things. I think I'll go into industrial design. So I went into industrial design and I fell into it, and I liked it because you made things. And I wasn't like the best student. I always kind of struggled. And there were people that, showed up sophomore year and they were like industrial designers. It was like, oh my God, they know how to do this stuff. I kind of tried to figure it out as I went along, and I got through it. They kind of threw me out when I finished senior year, because I really didn't really do the work. I kind of faked my way through it. And I actually discovered New York City at that time. And I really didn't want to give up New York City and go to class. So I did a lot of New York City study in my senior year. And
as you do.
And so then I left Pratt, and I became.
Well, wait, before you leave Pratt, I want to say hi to some people that have joined the room.
Okay.
Bradley Carney, how you doing? Oh, he's kind of half paying attention there. Bradley, how you doing? Do you hear us? Bradley? Yeah, okay, unmute, say hi. Got to hit the button.
Hey guys, I'm at the Heat game, so it's a little bit loud. So I didn't want to disturb you with a great thing, but it's great to see you, Bruce. It's been a while.
How are you?
Thanks for all the wisdom that you've given us over the years. I keep staying in touch. So
nice.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you.
There you go. Cool. Yeah, Brad helped me out. I was a struggling student, and man, he set me up. I mean, I know it sounds silly, but he literally sat me down and taught me how to use a calendar. It was amazing.
I found out the other day that a deck of cards is a calendar. That it was invented as a calendar.
Oh, okay.
4 seasons, 4 suits, 52 weeks of the year.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I never thought about that.
Thing. So I mean, once I discovered that, it was like, oh, I have a reason now to design a deck of cards. I had no reason up to that point. I was like, oh my God. And you know why you have a joker?
Why?
Leap year. This year is leap year. There's a 29th day in February. It was like, I was shocked by that the other day when I don't keep track of these things. I looked up, oh, look, leap year, 29. So everybody who's 20 is 4 years old or something at this point.
Oh, yeah. Amazing. So, okay. So now you've got some explaining to do. I got some photos here that, we want some answers.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't want to skip ahead, but what's going on here?
Oh, that's Niles.
Oh my God.
Niles, that's you.
I keep popping up. That's great. I want that picture.
This is Niles.
I was Bruce's shop assistant.
1973. By the way, Peter, right, is building houses. This house is 50 years old this year. Look at the house. And yeah, there it is. But look at the framing over here. I prefabricated that house in Long Island City and put it in a 24-foot U-Haul and drove it up to the Adirondacks, which is 6 hours away from here.
You did it as a modular construction?
Oh, it's all 4x8 sheets of plywood.
Oh, I gotta tell you, modular.
I don't know.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, that's okay.
Oh, modular's coming back, and we're actually working on a modular construction for a off-grid trailer. It's gonna be like solar powered, but there's a site called Offsite Dirt, and it's what they specialize in. And also a lot of efficiency in the modular construction, because you can build it in a closed environment, like let's say a factory, and then you bring it all to the site and assemble it there. That's a new thing. I mean, it's not new, but it's like pretty popular right now. So is that what you did? You created all the pieces before you brought it there?
No, everything was assembled. The walls are 2 inches thick, urethane foam. On one side is white, one side is brown. That's how you know which is the outside and the inside. You know, and it's plastic. All you do is wash it. It's been washed a few times in the last 50 years. The whole idea, it was, you know, by the whole house fit inside a 24-foot U-Haul. So what is that? 8 by 8 by about 18 plus whatever the 6-foot long thing over the roof is. And that's me at the top. That's Niles. Niles, this is what Niles contributed to building it. He watched us build it mostly.
Mostly.
Mostly he watched. He said, "What the fuck?" See, those are all the walls right there.
Right here.
Yeah, this is with Niles. Those are all the walls.
Oh, here.
Yeah, that's all the walls. And
Wow.
everything was pre-finished. And we just took it up there. It took about a week to put together.
That's amazing.
Really?
Yeah, it only took a week. And the floors were all pre-finished. And it was veneer, by the way. And when I did it, everybody said, "Oh my God, you're going to wear those out. You can't use veneer plywood on a floor." Everybody uses veneer plywood on a floor now. That's all they do, because you put urethane on top of it. You can't ever wear through the urethane, you know, except on basketball courts, right? But, you know, you don't wear through it. You wash it off. And, you know, every 25 years, you put another coat of urethane on it if you need it. The reason I built that house was I wanted to know how much you could build a house for. It's 24 feet by 24 feet, 2 stories tall. In the center, it's 2 stories tall. It weighs about 3.5 tons. It's very light compared to, it's never fallen down. It's never rocked or rolled or anything else. I mean, it's 50 years old.
Wow.
Lots of snow on top of it. It's had one roof replaced. And that's it. You know, we're designing another one for the same property. That's a 5 by 5 instead of a 3 by 3. So it's significantly bigger. We're going to make 3-inch thick. The vertical columns are 4 by 4s, and the horizontal beams, which is it's a continuous column structure with discontinuous beams. It kind of turns the whole structural idea on its head, because usually it's continuous beams and discontinuous columns, and so they're all 4-bys.
Peter, did you think we'd be talking about modular construction tonight? I mean, this is right up your alley, man. What do you think?
It certainly is welcome good, and it's one of the variety of many topics that we discuss here in Shop Class Podcast. It's just we can jump from one thing to another, and it all comes together and knowing how to do stuff.
Yeah, that's very impressive. I didn't know you built a house like this, and you're building it from a design challenge. How do you get it in one U-Haul? The whole house?
Yep, the whole house.
Wow, that's amazing.
And everything. The thing is that the whole thing was not to trim anything. Was to design it so that everything was 4 feet by 8 feet. All of the panels are 4 feet by 8 feet. All the interior panels are 1 inch thick. They're 3/4 inch material with 1/8 inch on either side, pre-finished materials on either side. So you have one.
How did you put it all together?
Well, you build the floor first, and the floor structure is built on jacks.
Wow, that's cool.
So it's built on piles, and then footings, and then you
no basement,
level it.
No foundation.
No foundation, no. And the floor is 1/2 inch plywood top, 1/2 inch plywood bottom, 2 by 4 in the middle. And they're on 16-inch centers. But if you build a web shape, skinned structures, they're much, much stronger than trying to make beams. So it's basically the floor is just a continuous beam.
So it's like an exoskeleton.
Yeah, it's all exoskeleton, and they just sit in the floor. They just sit in there. You don't connect them in any way. They just drop into the floor.
Duke, should I show him the G-Pod America? Okay, I'm gonna pull it up.
Andrew
Yeah.
Seeley, he's somewhere in Texas.
Yep.
What do you think of this, Bruce? We got
Speaking of aliens,
yeah.
Yeah. I always find this. Is this something you're working on?
This is not me, but these even though these look like AI or
Yeah.
CAD models, this is a real thing in Texas. This is an actual job site. Let me just find oh, I guess there we go. So
One of the biggest problems when you're doing stacking modules, which Moshe Safdie discovered in 1966 when he was building a habitat in Montreal, is that you have to overstructure them all if you want to build them all the same, because the ones on the bottom are holding up all the rest of them. So it seems like such a really good idea to build modules, but the problem is the ones on the bottom are tremendously overstructured, as are the ones on the top. So what you need to do is if you're stacking modules, you have to build them in different ways, so that the ones on the bottom are strong and the ones on the top could be much less structural.
Okay, I see.
Everybody jumps into them. Oh my God, let's just stack a bunch of containers. Well, they're all overstructured then.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And my point with my house was that it used very, very little material to accomplish what other people do with a lot of material. There's no nails in the house whatsoever. A few nails where you hold molding in place and stuff like that, but it could be done without nails. All of the beams are held in place by lag bolts. So if you put in 2 well-placed lag bolts into a beam and you hold it properly, you don't need 17 nails that you can't pull out ever.
Okay.
So the things I hate in the world are anchor fence, staple guns, and nail guns. I know everybody loves all of those things. I don't.
That's it. You're getting kicked off of here. No, it makes sense. Reduction of fasteners, reduction of parts. That's what Tesla does. They're die casting
the whole car. Yeah.
And by the way, there's no floor.
Yeah.
Now the battery pack is where they mount the seats. There's no floor any longer.
Yeah.
You're sitting on the pack. Nothing's in between.
Best-selling car in the world, 1.3 million car. And they said, and by the way, the motor has one moving part. An internal combustion. I know everybody loves internal combustion engines, but
I like both
parts. It's gonna break.
Yep. Well, I like both. Like we actually did an electric car here back when it was not cool, and we did a gas to electric conversion on a Volkswagen Rabbit.
Nice.
And we did a DC motor with lead acid batteries. Actually, inspired by, I think my senior project was all about electric cars at Pratt. I mean, they were kind of ahead. Everybody was always ahead of coming up with cool ideas, but I found a real practical, similar to you, I found like a practical way to do it. And, because of that, we were able to build it right here with high school kids back in 2008 when it went to $4 a gallon in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah. We still have the car today. It's hard to see, but I'll bring up some photos.
Nice.
Yeah, but this is pretty cool, man. I didn't know you were into architecture, and I like that you have like kind of a engineering thinking of it. Like, how do you reduce the parts? And there's a lot of naysayers. You just try it. You're just willing to try experiments.
Oh, and when I showed the plans to the architects, they said, "Oh, the slenderness ratio of your columns." It will fall down. It hasn't fallen down because it's not the columns and the beams and the roof beams are a single structure. They're not. Most stick buildings are every single piece is separate, and it's not considered they don't consider the structure of it. They consider like, well, you got to put a lot of those things in there and a lot of nails, and it'll stay up there for a while. You know, no one really knows the structure of a 2x4 built house. No one can calculate it because it's such a mess. Because no one knows if the 2x4s are actually touching the beam. You know, but if you actually build a structure, they're quite strong. Now, the other things, you want to look at other things that I did. I did.
You got some more explaining to do.
Let me explain.
What's going on here?
Oh, this was 1977. I got invited to go to Japan, and I got on a plane from Kennedy. I couldn't get on. There were Pan Am flights at that time, 747 direct flights, but I only could get on a JAL plane. So you flew from Kennedy to Anchorage. The plane landed in Anchorage, and then I flew to Tokyo, Haneda Airport, and then I flew from there to Osaka. And I got off the plane, and I had to drink a lot of beer because there was a whole bunch of people waiting for me to design this thing. This is a complete dental operatory. There's two different chairs, and it's a dental chair. That's the dental chair. And the word I said to them when we walked in that day, I walked in to meet like the 40 people that were going to work on the project. I said, it's going to be quiet. No one wants to go to the dentist because it's noisy. So everything we did was to make it quiet.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
And, so the chair was quiet. You know, they're still making some of this stuff 50 years later, which is pretty good. 43 years later.
I mean, I got to tell you, that's something I always notice. It's a pretty comfortable chair. Not that you're comfortable at the dentist's office, but I mean.
Bruce,
yes.
Do you own the patent for that?
I own the patents for different things in it. The arm, which is, again, that was used on a lot of the products that Takara made. They make a lot of spa products that they still use the arm on. And I eliminated all the castings that they had in these chairs, which were very expensive. They were die cast, then you had to paint them, and they were a pain in the ass. So we tried to get rid of a lot of the castings. So the arm is basically two pieces of metal, a hinge, a clever little connection, and urethane foam and a sleeve of naugahyde. Very inexpensive. You pick it up and it drops out of the way. The dental units had we put a pad of paper on them, so that all you did was remove the paper, from it, and you had a clean thing. The little the dentist chair and the assistant's chair, which is that little curved back one there, they're still in production, which is very funny.
Wow.
Because they weren't.
What's the name of this company?
Takara Belmont.
How do you spell that?
Takara Belmont. And so, so that's that.
Well, so I want to ask you a question. You seem to know a lot about reducing parts and making things lightweight and simpler. And I got to tell you, I don't think a lot of designers know about that. What do you think you would attribute that directive, that design directive? Because it took a long time to understand that as well. But if you can make less parts but still accomplish your goal, you're ahead in the manufacturing, in the look of it, in the repair of it, the service of it. There's a lot of things you win when you reduce the parts. So how did you learn that, and what do you attribute that to?
I show the suspension seating, and I think it's very clear with that one. That's this one over here in the corner. This is 1971. No, the sofas.
Oh, this thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait. This is kind of cool. This is like, we need like an intro for this. I mean, this is one that I remember seeing at Pratt, and I remember seeing it around, and I understood. And so, this is, let me just intro. This is a very simple couch, and the bar that goes across the front and the back is actually from a sailboat. It's a mast, and it holds the fabric in its lock. And that's all I know about it. So let's hear about it. Go for it.
Well, I mean, I think, when Andy and I got together, if you show the picture of the other chair, and then we'll go back to this. That right there in the middle, the two guys standing in that one, or no, the other one's better. Go down. This one here, the one in the middle, with the two guys standing by the chair. That's that was my cohort in crime, Andy Morrison, who passed away 2 years ago. Andy and I got together after we graduated. He went to Montreal, and I had a couple of jobs in New York City and in Staten Island and in New Jersey, actually. And then we got together. We wanted to design a chair for Noel. And our original philosophy was we're going to design a chair, sell it to Noel, and retire. That was the whole point. That was our philosophy. And but what came out of it was that we talked a lot. I spent 10 years with Andy, 7 days a week, designing stuff. Usually, most of the 24 hours of the day, we were somehow in a conversation. So we played this wonderful game of chess that no one ever won. And so the reason things got simpler was that one of us would have an idea, or we'd have a collective idea. We'd do it to a certain point, and then, we'd leave it and we'd walk away from the studio. And, the next morning, whoever had the better idea showed up and made the idea that we were working on better.
Oh, I see. You guys kind of challenged each other.
We constantly challenged each other. And so now go back to the suspension seating. And so Andy loves sailing. And so he said, we should do something with a sailboat mast. And so you could, the sailboat mast has this slot in it that you can slide the sail into. That's the B section. There's a number of sections of sailboats masts. The B section is about the size that is, I don't know, it's 2 inches by 3 inches or something. And we came up with this idea that we'd make the original one, the first sketch that we made was a bench. That, by the way, my daughter, who lives in Cold Spring on the Hudson, actually still has. And we sewed up a cushion, and it was just basically an open envelope with two I forget what it's called, but like a bead on the edge of each piece of fabric, and you stuff the urethane foam pillow in it, and then when you slide it into the extrusion, it closes the pillow and also holds it on. See the little slot there? Yeah. This one? It's kind of like, well, any of them, it kind of looks like the one in the middle. Yeah. So that's where we started. We made a little bench, and the bench was actually about 16 feet long because we walked from our studio in Soho, which was on Howard Street near the intersection of Canal and Broadway. We walked down to Chambers Street to this place called Chambers Marine Supplies or whatever it was. And it did exist on Chambers Street in New York City, and bought 2 sections of mast. I think they were 16 feet long. And we walked up Broadway. We did not want to cut them. And the first thing we made, we didn't want to cut them to any length. We didn't know what length we were going to cut them. The first piece we made was like 16 feet long. But then we started to see what we could do with it. And we we sewed a lot of cushions. There's 3 basic sizes of the sofa. There's a high back, there's an upright we called contract, and then there's a lounge one. We were making it, and we called up Noel, and we said, we were very young, and we said, you should be working with us because we're the 2 best designers in the world. And they came and saw the prototypes we had made, and at that moment we also won an award from Alcoa that was given at that time yearly to the best use of aluminum. And since we used aluminum side frames and aluminum extrusion, they loved us. And so we got this Alcoa award, and Noel was then sort of pushed into, they had built-in advertising. So it's like, oh, well, we should introduce it. The chairs in this photo that they ran, this is one of the first ads they ran. Andy and I made those. They were not made in the factory. It was to get it out to the world, as quickly as possible. So, but a lot of it was just eliminating things, and we also wanted to make it easy for people to put things together. So this is
to service it, right?
Yeah. So this is basically 4 bolts, one in the end of each extrusion, and the end frames are the same. There's not a left and a right. You make them left and rights by putting this washer in that's the same shape, the oval shape, that you cast also. So you have one extrusion tool, one die cast end, and one washer shape that you use to make this thing. It's very inexpensive tooling. And then there's just a lot of sewing. So we had fun doing it. But it was
you take the fabric and you stuff it down that pocket.
Yeah.
And then cap it.
Yeah. Well, the extrusion has another piece of metal inside of it that you screw you screw the bolt into, so that you're basically using the extrusion as a compression member, and there's a tension piece in the middle of it that holds it all together. They never come apart. It's very interesting. The structure is very, very strong.
It's been proven on ships. So basically you just have, and now the fabric has to have something sewed into it, like a little.
It has a welt. It has a welt sewed into each edge, and then you slide it on to the.
Is there a dowel in the fabric, or
no? It's just a welt. It's called welting. It's actually made out of paper.
Oh, okay. So
it's welts on
around something.
Yeah,
now you have this pocket, and then that slips down your extrusion.
Yep.
And did they use like a salvo company, or they came up with their own extrusion?
No, we made our own extrusion because we could make. Actually, sailboat masts are quite flexible up to a point. There's different alloys that are used in extrusions.
Uh-huh.
And this is I think it's 6061, if I remember right. 50 years later.
Wow, this is wild. Let's go around the room a little. Saber, what do you think of this design? It's pretty simple, right? Let's see if she's there.
I'm here.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. Bruce is amazing. I don't know if you remember me, Bruce, but I was in your restaurant design class.
You were?
I was. I don't know if you even ran it twice, but I was in the first one, and it was great. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, your designs are so elegant. They're really a thinking person's designs, and I think it's amazing. I love it. And I want to build my own house one day. Now you're inspiring me. I didn't know about the house project. It's amazing.
Well, I don't remember you, but I thank you. You remember me, and that was a great class, actually. we went to, is that the one we went to the 21 Club?
Yes.
Yes.
All the best restaurants in New York, at an amazing lunch with the designers of the restaurant at
Yeah,
the same time. It was like blowing my mind. It was so delicious and so visually amazing, and then intimidating to be in the company of these like amazing designers.
So did we go to lunch that first year with Milton?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I remember the restaurants, but I don't necessarily remember every designer.
Okay. But that was one of my favorite classes. My two favorite classes were fishing for ideas. Guess what we did?
Nice.
We went fishing, and the other class that I loved to teach was appetite for design. And we went to great restaurants. Some of them still exist. Some of them don't. 21 Club, I don't think exists anymore.
It does.
It doesn't.
Oh no.
I don't know. But the one that does exist is Trattoria dell'Arte, which was designed by Milton Glaser. And that was always our last one we went to. That was sort of our holiday feast. It's still there. The sculptures, which is a giant nose on the outside of the building, was sculpted by his best friend, Jordan Steckel, who knew Milton Glaser when they grew up in the Bronx on the Grand Concourse, knew each other since they were 12 years old, and was still buddies. I mean, Milton was 80 something when he died. And that's Milton. You all know that fantastic Bob Dylan cover that I think made Bob Dylan more famous than he deserved at that point. But I loved that class because, yes, you were intimidated by those people, but you found out that they were not gods.
Yeah.
And that I remember one of my favorite questions someone asked Milton one time. The Trattoria dell'Arte is filled with color. There's red walls, green walls, yellow walls. I mean, there's all kinds of, it's color is everywhere. And one of the students said, "Mr. Glaser, how do you know the color is right when you choose it?" And he said, "If it's wrong, you repaint it."
Whatever. Yeah, exactly. That's great. This is all so good. This is New York City history and design all wrapped up together. This is pretty cool. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, Saber. It's pretty cool.
No, I was just saying that was such a good concept to be eating in the restaurant, speaking with the designer. It was pretty good. Pretty good.
Right.
One of my favorite other favorite designers is Adam Tahani.
Yes.
He designed all the Le Cirques, and we went to Le Cirques, so they were very kind to us. You know, they would say, "Oh well, I would tell them who we were, and Adam would call them and everything else, and we would get like a 5-course lunch for like $20, at $25. I mean, everybody else in the place is paying $250 for lunch, and we're getting it for $20. But Adam once said the best thing that I ever heard one of the guests say. We were in a restaurant called Artisano, which was a cheese restaurant that he did on like 35th Street, right off Park Avenue. And we're sitting there, and there were these beautiful white milk glass lights on the ceiling, probably 2 feet or 3 feet by 3 feet with a red line through them. And the red lines went every which way. And one of the students said, "Mr. Tahani, what does the red line mean?" And he waited until everybody quieted down. He said, "Everything in life does not have meaning," which I thought was like brilliant, and what it did was it's basically said to all those people that are in the room, it's okay to just have a red line. You don't have to give it meaning, Because so many designers are like, well, the meaning of this is that it relates to the, the cobblestones of, who gives a shit sometimes. It's just wonderful that like, oh, there's a red line on the ceiling. And to me, that was very important for the students to hear that it all doesn't have to have meaning. You could just express yourself.
Yeah.
Super cool. So that's great, Saber, that you remember his class. Yeah, I don't think I ever had your class. I enjoyed a similar class that had, well, not a similar class, but one of the classes was my favorite at Pratt that helped teach what we just talked about, which is reduction of the parts. And also that, like, yeah, just worry about the function and don't worry about, you can make it fun or whatever. Was what was it was like manufacturing methods or something like that. What was
industrial? That was my other favorite class. Industrial design technology.
Yeah,
that was field trip class.
Okay, all right.
And we went to a sand foundry. We went to an extruder. We went to a vacuum former. We went to a guy who did spinning.
Was the spinning guy, sorry to interrupt you, was the spinning guy in Greenpoint?
Yes.
Okay, I went to that guy. It's in the broken down warehouse, and now that warehouse is worth billions of dollars, and it's all condos now. I mean, I remember this guy was turning metal. I was like, wow, that's amazing. They're making lamp shades and cups and everything, and aluminum, and it was all by hand. I don't think I fully appreciated what was going on there. I should have just stayed there and worked just to learn how to do it. It's so cool. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff in Brooklyn. There's all these little pockets in New York, and they're probably all gone. I mean, I guess it's coming back. But yeah, okay, go ahead. Sorry, I got excited when I heard spinning.
Oh, that's what we did. I mean, and then the students did a little exercise about, the process they just learned.
What was the name of the professor that taught manufacturing? He was he had a lot of patents.
Yes, I'll think of his name. He lived in
Long Island somewhere, and
Long Island. Yeah. He had a funny first name.
Who is that?
I'll remember.
Sempliner.
Yes.
Tip Sempliner.
That's right. Tip.
Oh my God, this guy hated me when I first got there. Oh my God, absolutely hated me. But let me tell you, he was the shop teacher of shop teachers. He was great. He would, Duke, you don't have no idea. This guy would draw in chalk from one side. He would pick a product and he'd say, here's how they manufacture this.
Right.
And he would draw the entire assembly line and the thought process behind it.
Yeah.
And then by the end, he would be like, great. And that's what the test is about. And you'd be like, what? And so you had to read, explain back to him, handwritten, the manufacturing process of whatever he chose. And he would do stuff that was counterintuitive, like why did the metal expand this way and not that way? How come? Why would you choose extrusions over stamping? And it was fantastic. That resonated with me. I really liked that class. What an incredible class. Is he still teaching that? I have no idea.
I have no idea.
Okay.
I retired.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
I basically just taught the stuff that all these people, when I first started teaching that class, they were all people that I used. We went to the extruder that made the extrusions for the Knoll stuff. We went to the die caster who cast the ends of the chairs. And so, it was amazing to bring the students to those places and have them see how things are made. I find that we need to do more of that. We need to just show people how to make things.
Oh, visiting manufacturing. I mean, manufacturing is so underrated.
Yeah.
By just the general public. It's incredible. Elon Musk gets on an earnings call and they say to him, oh, how come you haven't produced this car yet that you promised? He's like, well, anybody can make a prototype. You're asking for us to make millions of cars. I mean, it takes time. I remember one time they put one of the product lines, they put it in a parking lot with a tent on it because they had no room and they had to get their deadline. And then they criticized him for this. And he was like, well, what do you care? It's a military tent. So what they took from that, they said, oh, it's a tent. You're making cars in a tent. He's like, it's a production line. It's covered. Don't worry about it, And so it's incredible how underrated and what people don't realize how hard manufacturing at scale is. It's like what I do is I explain to people, I say, did you ever make a pizza at home? You got to roll the dough. Yeah, that's difficult because you usually just buy shit like Elio's. Okay, so instead you're going to roll the dough and you're going to care. You're going to buy expensive ingredients and you're going to worry about all your stuff and no stick and you put the flour and get fresh mozzarella. And okay, great. Now that pizza costs more than if you just bought the pizza, right? So, but you made one. Now make hundreds per day. That's a different skill.
No, it's manufacturing is that was my second job. I worked for a tiny little company in New Jersey called Engineered Plastic Products.
Get out, really?
Yeah, it's still there.
Wait, tell us, I want to hear that story because
I was making 1/3. I took a 2/3 cut in pay to go to work for them.
Really?
Well, there was only 10 people in the place, but I learned how to sell things. The guy that hired me owned it, and he taught me how to be a salesperson. And I learned. My favorite story was going with one of the clients we had. We made engineered plastic products, which was these. Yep, there it is. That's the company. I think the grandchildren are running it at this point. And
wow.
Mercer Street, Sterling, New Jersey. And but what was interesting about it, Bell Labs was one of our clients, and Bell Labs in the 60s was like amazing, right?
Yeah.
And Bell Labs I would go there and they'd need 500 cases, plastic cases, to ship a particular piece of electronic equipment, a piece of testing equipment all across the world. So they need 500 of these things. So I would go there and they'd have it drawn and they would hand me 10 drawings. One of those 10 drawings would be the screws, one screw that held it all together or whatever. I don't care. I would have to go back and make a shop drawing of that so that we could quote it. Because it'd be almost impossible to quote it as all these separate parts. So I would make an assembly drawing of it, and we figured out, how we could make it. Usually, we had to modify what the engineers had done, and in order to actually make the part. I take my one drawing back to Bell Labs, and they'd say, "Come back in a couple of weeks. Those are really good, helpful advice and everything else." And I'd go and pick up 10 more drawings, and I'd come back. Eventually, we would get the job, and I would have to take all of that information and put it into a shop drawing.
Wow.
What I found out was that there are a lot of people paid a lot of money to do a lot of things that were incredibly redundant. There were people in fact, this is when I decided that I should be my own industrial designer. I went to Henry Dreyfuss and I went to Walter Darwin Teague and I called on them and everything else. I ended up doing a lot of the drawing, all of the designing, which was like putting draft angles on things and so allowing them to come out of tooling, et cetera, et cetera. And I was designing the tooling. So that's when I started to realize, oh, wait a minute, I could be a designer.
Wow.
All the things that I did, had to work. They were working parts. And they fit into things and they had holes connected to them and they moved and blah, 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 blah. So when we first started doing things with Noel, they said, well, could you design a line of tables? And I said, well, what do they have to do? And they said, nothing. They just have to sit there. I said, oh, I think we can do that.
Yeah.
Which to me was sort of like funny. It's like, oh, it doesn't have to move. It doesn't have to do anything.
So I'm really glad that we got onto this story because to me, this is like the little gem that's kind of missing. And so maybe this is my own personal story, but basically when I went to Pratt, there was a lot of emphasis on design work, but really, if you don't know how to manufacture it, you are probably not a good designer.
Yeah.
So would you agree with that statement that I think that the design is great and everything, but if you don't know how to manufacture it, you're probably not figuring out the best way to do it.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of people that combine mechanical engineering and design at this point. And I think that most design firms do have mechanical engineers, who work with them. There is a certain amount of, we'll figure out how to make it once you design it. I mean, I sense that a lot when I look at cars and I see little funny dents and, in doors that have to go around molding. And, it's like, well, they really didn't think about the door opening and closing when they made that. But, I mean, I think it's easy to poke fun at that kind of stuff. I am incredibly impressed with the Tesla. I mean, they're getting close to molding a whole frame. That's the next machine they're building. And when you eliminate all of that work of building a frame, and you're making one, I don't know, every 4 or 5 minutes. I don't know how long, quite long it takes. That's an extraordinary thing. And if it's designed properly, then all you do is stick the panels on it. Now, the Cybertruck is another thing. Don't get me started.
Oh my God, that's actually one of the reasons we connected, because there was all these designers just hating on the Cybertruck a couple of weeks ago, and I defended it. And I was like, let's do this. I was like so glad to fight on this topic because I understand, yes, it is not an F-150. It is not a handsome truck.
Yeah.
It's not a Land Cruiser. It is not a Toyota, Ford, Nissan. It is nothing like that. But it's the form that follows the function, which is a design trait. It does what you're asking it to do. You want it to be tough? It's a flat panel made with thick stainless steel. You want it easy to manufacture? They slap the panels on, no paint, no compound curve. They eliminated it. So some designers, I think, they look at that truck and they say, oh, you're cheating. Like, you didn't do your work. And I'm just like, no, they did exactly what the design directive was. Simple, tough truck, easy to manufacture.
I have a retort to that.
Yes, please. Bring it.
We actually built something that looked like this in the early 90s at Pratt. We built a truck out of 1/2-inch foam core.
Okay.
That was very close. No, you could drive it around.
Oh, really?
And I'm trying to think of the guy's name. He designed the Keurig coffee maker.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the company is in Boston. Once I remember the name, his last name is Metaxetos. Paul Metaxetos designed a truck. I will send you the I have images of it.
Okay.
Early 90s. It's the same idea. It's been around for a long time. If you think of the Jeep built, designed and built in about 9 months, I think. Our Jeep, not the ones that they build today, which are kind of like funny, but the GI Jeep World War II, that was built, designed and built very quickly. We didn't have anything like that. And we needed one. So we figured out how to do it. It's all flat sheet metal,
Yeah.
So do I understand form following function and following manufacturing? Absolutely. I just think the Cybertruck is a little too designed.
Okay.
Okay. I think it's overthought. I think it's way overthought in terms of form. I think it's overthought in terms of what they want it to be. I think it's super styled. It's like it's a F-150 on steroids, basically. And so I think that the marketing of it is very interesting.
Wait, I thought it was the opposite. I thought the designers were mad because they thought it was lazy, like they didn't spend time on the compound.
This is my opinion. My opinion that it's
different than I thought.
It's overstyled. It's overstyled. It's sort of like Madonna's breasts, you know, with the pointy breasts. It's like, okay, I know you have breasts, and then they're the pointy. Oh, whoopee, you know. And she made them out of metal, you know, or the guy, you know, the designer made them out of metal. It's like, okay, I get it, you know. I feel that a little bit, that it's overworked, which I don't feel with like the Model 3 or Model G, whatever this.
The Y.
I think it looks like a car, you know, because the biggest mistake you can make when you're designing something is to not make it look like what the world is thinking it should look like. So I don't know whether I'm making myself clear, but
yeah, it's a big departure. I get it. It's obnoxious to be obnoxious.
Yeah. It's very obnoxious. It's very Edsel. You know, it's like, oh yeah, well, everybody has the grill going horizontally. We'll make it vertical. You know, it's like, oh, so for what? You know, I mean, I think that the Tesla doesn't go quite far enough because I still sense that there's a grill there, even though there's no grill. There's you know, there's a lot of product semiotics that are going on with that are fascinating. You know, so you know, but you know, I like it all. I love being here tonight. By the way, I'm fading fast.
No, it's okay. That's all right.
I don't think you realize how old I am. I'm quite old. I need my sleep. And it's been a pleasure, by the way, to be here and for you to ask me to do this and to talk about, you know, my funny stuff. We didn't talk enough about growing furniture, but we'll do that another time.
Okay, yeah. Do you want to talk about it now or do you want to call it a night?
Okay, I'll talk about it for, oh, well, we're almost there anyway. So let me, yeah.
Okay, I'll pull it up.
To me, I know it's silly. I know it's completely and utter silliness. But we can do spectacular things genetically. But we're not doing them. We're terrified of it. But I think this is kind of a benign thing to do, is to like modify things to grow into things that then are completely sustainable. They trap their carbon and it does not get released. And by the way, if it's all made, I don't know whether you looked at the number of drawings. I think you can do this. I challenge, I'm going to go over to, I live near Cold Spring Laboratories. I'm going to go over there and challenge them to go, hey, guys, I know you're, you know, very concerned about dolphins, but, you know, what if you had, now I also made them look like they're trees, you know. I don't want to lie about it. This is a little, you know, it has a little, you have to cut the limbs off. This one has a glass top. I think that one is completely doable, you know, pretty easy. You know, somebody could figure out how to grow a tree like that. We have lots of trees that grow with the roots out of the thing. So that's that one. Okay, keep going. The next one. Go to the next one. This is again funny, but you know, if you took the properties of ivy and you just strengthen them a little bit, basically webbing. You know, has anyone ever pulled ivy out of the ground? I mean, you could sit on it. It's very strong, you know. So I don't know whether this stays alive. I don't know what to do about that. But, you know, it's a thought. So, you know, this is two things. It's got the frame and then you grow the ivy over it. It seems simple. Okay, next one is keep going.
Yep.
The next one, this one I think is doable. It's you plant 4 seeds and they grow together. You know, and you have to figure out how to get them to grow together. You don't want the little leaves on it. I left the leaves on it because I thought that was funny.
Oh, couldn't you just let them grow into a mold of some kind? Is that
Yeah,
what
you could. I don't know. I was sort of interesting. You sort of kept it honest. Is there any more? Is that it?
no.
Oh, this one. This is like, you know, you watch vines grow around trees and they grow as spirals. So this is like a 3-legged table that spirals together and goes. I mean, I don't know. I think, you know, but we do spend an awful lot of money, energy, and time, especially on Instagram and Facebook. People chopping down trees and cutting the shit out of them, man. I mean, you know, everybody who's got a chainsaw is now in the business of making logs, you know. And so this is the next thing is to design the furniture combine that actually picks the, you know, there's, you have to imagine it's a cornfield of chairs, and the combine comes along and cuts them off, you know. Now the thing is, everybody says, oh my God, it's going to take 8 years. Well, the way you work this is that you plant them at some point, one day apart, 8 years from now, right? So 8 years in one day gets done, and then 8 years and the next day gets done. Yeah, you have big fields, and you turn around and you plant them. You know, you keep rotating them, so you can do it. I think it's possible to think this through. It's kind of silly, but
no, I like it. I'm going to tell you why I like it.
It eliminates, you know, the carbon footprint instantaneously. You know, there is no carbon footprint. It's a tree. It stays there. The carbon goes into it, stays there. And, you know, the photosynthesis locks the carbon in, done. Bye, you know. So I don't, you know, I think the people in North Carolina and every other place that actually make will go, oh my God, you know, they're going to put us out of business. Yes, that's true.
Look, I have to tell you something. When I think that this is thinking out of the box, and I remember being at Pratt, and I haven't had this feeling in a very long time since I was at Pratt, listening to a professor lecture about something so wild, yet they're so confident. And I remember thinking, I'll tell you what, I think Tucker Viemeister, he was on stage one night, and he says at Pratt, they used to have these lectures. It was so cool. And he said that people are going to walk around, forget the cell phone, people are going to walk around talking because they got a chip in their head. Yeah. And he made a joke. He said, the way that you're going to know that they're on the phone is they'll be, so you don't think they're crazy and just talking to themselves, right? Is there would be a little light on their head, and you would know that, and he had a drawing for this, and nobody laughed.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, here we are. And I remember that moment, be like, wow, that did not resonate, and no one liked it, and including me. I was like, I'm not putting a chip in my head, and I was all mad about it.
One person,
he completely predicted the smartphone that we have attached to us all the time.
Yeah.
And they are working on a chip that goes in your head.
He put one in somebody's head today.
Yeah. And so and same thing with the electric car stuff. So we owe the professors like yourself that are willing to look into the reality of a crazy idea. And you know, honestly, like, they're actually, what people don't know about is the history. They forget the history of science fiction has a major influence on NASA and us going to the moon.
Yep.
And the brief history of that is that von Braun from obviously Germany, he was the head of NASA. He the Saturn V rocket that brought us to the moon and everything. He was part of a group of people that were physicists that were trying to make a storybook, a children's storybook about the man in the moon from 50 years prior. At that time, they were trying to make it a reality, and they formed a group and took it very seriously, a fantasy sci-fi idea. So Bruce, hats off to you. I really do think that what you're doing is important. Obviously, sure, there's fantasy. You could just say, oh, that's never going to happen. But if you put some effort into it, you never know where it's going to lead. And I was turned on to electric cars at Pratt from crazy professors like yourself, crazy in a good way. So I think that what you're doing is important. So good stuff, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, you can drop the mic there, you know.
Thank you.
All
It
right.
was a pleasure.
All right. Thanks a lot for coming in, and we'll stick around, and we're gonna take some questions from the crowd. So Bruce, thanks a lot, man. Oh, Bradley, uncover your mic. You might have it with your thumb on it or something. Oh, there, you're a little muffled, but I appreciate you, man. That's great. Thanks for being here.
Great job, guys. Great job. Really great question. I don't want to interrupt you. So.
Cool. Yeah, it's hard to hear you though. That's the only problem. But yeah, but Bradley, that's awesome. Yeah, he's awesome. And thanks for everybody coming in. We can kind of wrap up that section and hang out for a bit. Anybody want to add anything to this before we wrap up the recording?
One thing, you guys have to check out Neri Oxman. She's a really brilliant architect using natural materials, and that's her goal, is to grow a house from a seed. She says she's pretty close. She's been working on it with a group of designers for a long time, but she uses natural materials. Like she'll build a structure and have silkworms like fill in the rest, you know. Very cool stuff. You should check it out.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is this her?
Yeah. She has a TED Talk, and there's a show on Netflix, you know, that show Abstract with different designers. She has a really great episode about her.
Cool.
It's really cool.
And Saber, you should come back and be a profiled guest. I mean, your journey's been amazing running that company and stuff and making all kinds of toys for the kids. That's great stuff.
Toys for the kids. Toys for the kids.
And Linda, thanks for coming in. It was a trip down memory lane. You also should be a guest. We've got to talk about your work, and you've been teaching for probably as long as Bruce. I'm not sure. Pretty amazing, right? I'm not sure she's there anymore. That's okay. All right. Well, I'm going to end the recording there. Thanks a lot for everybody coming in, and Shop Class Podcast. Actually, next week, we've got a really big podcast coming up. We're going to be interviewing a bicycle frame manufacturer. Paragon Machine Works in California is passing the torch from father to son. They're going to the father's retiring, and they're passing it over to the son. But the son earned it. He's a machinist that works at the works there. They make all the parts except for the tube. And they make the collars and the bottom brackets, head tubes, all the dropouts, clever ways, and including all the materials, aluminum, steel, titanium. I think they even do some stainless steel. And it's an incredible company. I visited them before. And so we're going to have a father-son on the podcast next week.
Great.
Yeah.
Hey, Ron.
Yeah.
I was on mute. I couldn't figure it out. Technology, it's rough, you know.
No problem.
But I wanted to thank you so much. It's delightful to see you. Really great. And so let's go to a diner, get ourselves a nice lunch sometime soon. What do you say?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Let's catch up. That'd be great.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
I mean, that's the whole point. Shop Class Podcast brings people together. That's the idea.
All right, that's great.
All right.
Cool. All right. You have a nice night, and thank you, and have a good night, everybody.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to end the recording there. Shop Class Podcast. All right.